that has very, very expensive land that's very, very expensive to live, like here. And am I not mistaken, we are classified rural here, or what is this?
The current way the schools are funding California is totally irrational, so that's why I can't really answer your question. There's not really a rural funding thing. It's based on this formula that was set up in the 1970s that bears no relationship today. So I can't really answer the question, and no one really can, because it makes no sense. I mean, there's a couple rules that high school districts get more than elementary, but it's just bizarre. I mean, that's how you have districts in San Mateo County, which are sort of similar, all getting very different amounts. So the solution to that is have a funding system that's based on the student, and students that have extra needs, special needs, or live in a rural area that has higher costs or intense poverty, you give them more. And you can devise a rational funding system. And right now in California, it makes absolutely no sense. I mean, most of you probably think Cupertino, for example, is a really highly funded district, right? Where Apple is, high wealth area. It's one of the lowest funded in the state. Right next to, you know, Palo Alto and Los Altos, which are really high. You say, how did that happen? It doesn't make any sense. It's totally irrational.
The focus on funding has been helpful, but it's still somewhat abstract. There's so many changes in class size and transportation and everything else. When you come down to dollars, if you have a way that you feel is the most effective way to compare how much we spend per pupil now and how much we spent per pupil in 1960 or some other time, and what would the difference be? What's our shortfall? What would it take now to actually spend as much today as we did comparably then?
We should be spending so much more on education today because it's so obviously the key to us staying a strong country. I mean, it's so obvious, and yet we don't do it. And I cannot figure it out. I just cannot understand it.
California, adjusted for income, is the third lowest or fourth lowest state in the country. If we were only to get to be where we were when you were in first grade, how much more money is that relative to what the budget is today?
So I think New York is number 2 or 3. We would need to be spending $44 billion more per year as a state. 44 billion more, and right now we have we're spending our general fund funding for education is about that, so we'd have to double what we're spending to get where we're going. And that gets to your question about, you know, how on earth can we do that in a recession and stuff. And I guess my only answer to that is, I don't know how we get back to there, but let's get closer. We do that by, one, prioritizing education compared to other government services, and then I truly believe we need a statewide tax increase to at least go into education to cover up some of that gap.
I was the director of finance for post-night children's program for almost 4 years, and our administrative cost to get state funding was horrendous. More than we could spend on the children, we had to spend on doing paperwork.
First of all, in terms of the paperwork, that gets back to the local control comment that the reason we have to deregulate the schools is so we don't need all these people just complying with state rules and regulations. So that gets at part of your question. The other part, though, and I am passionate about this too, and I'm not just saying this because the superintendent is here, I get really frustrated when people go after the administration and the administrative costs. First of all, compare school administration to public health administration, to public social services, to the Pentagon, to the Department of Agriculture, to any other government service. Is there bloat and waste in education administration? Absolutely. Can I show you things that would make you go, oh my God, what a waste of our money? Absolutely. Is it even close to as bad as other government services? Absolutely not. It is so much better. Compare the administrative overhead of education to Google, to IBM, to Chevron. Give me a break. I mean, the overhead administration. So yeah, is there problems? Absolutely, but it really frosts me when people go after education. The other thing that frosts me is when the teachers union goes after the pay of superintendents and principals, because you can't have a great anything without great leadership. And check out what the elite private schools pay their presidents. Check it out. I can tell you, you'd be stunned. Ton. More than the president makes. $450,000. Why? Because it's like leadership is what makes things happen, you know. So pay great leaders and then pay teachers a lot. And you know, to me, it should be in the teachers union interest to have superintendents principal's making a lot and then teachers make a lot, that's where we should go. So, long answer, but I feel very strongly about this. Now, all that having been said, I want to cut administrative waste, and so we do that by having more local control, and then I think a lot of people, some people would lose their jobs because the only thing they know how to do is comply with state regulations. Those people should be gone. But you still, you do need administration, and yes, should district offices be really careful and say, do they really need that person? Absolutely. I'm not trying to blindly defend school administration. I'm just saying compared to other big organizations, it's not that bad. The State Department of Education has the same number of employees today it did in 1970s. In the 1970s, there was, you know, no child left behind, no federal regulations, no charter schools, none of. I mean, my friend who works at the State Department of Education, you know, spent 12 hours on Sunday, you know, working. So, you know, is there bloat? Yes, but are these folks understaffed in a way? Yes.